Welcome to the deep dive. Our mission here is pretty simple. We take a stack of sources, pull out the key nuggets of knowledge, and help you get informed fast, hopefully with some surprising bits along the way.
Cutting through the noise.
Today, we're digging into just one source. It's a Wikipedia article covering the really recent and tragic crash of Air India Flight 171 in Ahmedabad, India. Happened just yesterday, June 12th, 2025.
Yeah, still very fresh.
We're talking about a Boeing 787 Dreamliner here, a modern jet. Went down minutes after takeoff.
Right into a densely populated area, too. That's a key detail from the source.
Absolutely. The scale of it is, it's immense. A huge loss of life, both on the plane and on the ground. But, and this is where the source gets really striking, there was apparently a single survivor from the aircraft itself.
One person. It sounds almost unbelievable given the circumstances described.
So that's our mission for this deep dive. Unpack the known facts, the immediate aftermath, the initial responses, all based only on what this specific source tells us. Let's get into it.
Okay, well, the first thing that jumps out is just how fast it all happened.
Right.
We're talking like 30 seconds after takeoff. That's incredibly quick.
30 seconds? Wow. And the plane itself?
An 11-year-old Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner. Registration VTANB.
The source gives a bit more on its history, doesn't it? Built in Everett and Charleston, delivered to Air India back in early 2014.
That's right. January 28th, 2014, and powered by GE engines, the GEX-1 B-67 model.
And this specific aircraft type, the 787 Dreamliner, this event is significant for it.
Hugely significant. The source clearly states this was the first fatal crash and hull loss, meaning the plane was destroyed for any 787 since they started flying in 2011.
The first one?
Yeah. And for Air India, it's also their first fatal hull loss since way back in 1985, the Flight 182 bombing. So historically, this is a major event for both Boeing and Air India.
Right. The flight itself scheduled from Ahmedabad to London Gatwick.
Correct. Air India runs quite a few flights out of Gatwick already. The source mentions 12 a wit, and 5 of those go to Ahmedabad. So a regular route.
And you mentioned the airport's location surrounded by housing.
Exactly. Densely packed residential areas. And that becomes tragically relevant, as the source details.
Okay, people on board? The source gives numbers.
It does. 242 total. That's 230 passengers and 12 crew members.
Any kids mentioned?
Yes, 11 children and 2 infants specifically listed among the passengers.
It's nationalities. I saw a breakdown.
Primarily Indian, 169. Then 53 British nationals, 7 Portuguese, and 1 Canadian passenger.
The source even names the cockpit crew.
Yes, Captain Sumit Sabharwal and First Officer Clive Kundar.
Okay, so let's get to those moments right after takeoff. You said 30 seconds.
Approximately 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Takeoff was from runway 23 at 13.38 local time. That's 08.08 UTC. Crash happened almost immediately after.
And the flight data, what did it show?
Well, the ADS-B transponder, the system that broadcasts position, it reported a maximum altitude of only 625 feet. Pressure altitude, that is.
625 feet, that's incredibly low.
It is. And they lost the transponder signal even lower, around 230 feet, just 50 seconds after that 08.08 UTC takeoff time.
And importantly,
the source notes that this was before the aircraft had even crossed the threshold of the opposite runway, runway 05. So still very much within the airport's immediate vicinity.
did the crew communicate anything?
The source says yes, they did issue a Mayday call in that incredibly brief window.
There's video mentioned, too, and witness accounts. What did they see?
Yeah, the source describes a video showing the plane climbing initially, but then starting to descend, even while appearing to pitch upwards. Then it crashed just out of the camera's line of sight.
Followed by?
A large plume of fire and smoke.
Yeah.
Eyewitnesses nearby in the Meghananagar area reported hearing multiple explosions as it hit.
And the impact site itself.
Right.
Where exactly?
Very specific details in the source. About 1.5 kilometers from the runway end, it crashed directly into buildings belonging to the Bemidji Medical College, specifically a hostel block and doctor's quarters.
Part of the civil hospital campus there.
Correct. The source mentions the plane hit a building and slid. And photos presumably showed the tail section, the stabilizers, somewhat intact, resting on top of one of the multi-story hostel buildings.
Any word on the weather at the time?
The source checked the METAR report's standard aviation weather. It indicated stable conditions, clear visibility, nothing unusual there.
So weather doesn't seem like an initial factor based on this source.
Doesn't seem like it, no. Which, of course, shifts focus elsewhere for the investigation.
Right. Let's talk about the immediate response, the rescue effort.
Kicked off very quickly. Ahmedabad Fire and Emergency Services got the first call at 13.45 local time, just minutes after the crash. They immediately dispatched teams and issued a brigade call,
Which means
a major mobilization. The source lists the fire department's resources: 337 firefighters, 60 fire vehicles, 20 water tankers, 20 ambulances. Just from them.
they weren't alone.
No, far from it. Coordinated effort. Teams came in from nearby cities like Vadodara, Gantanagar, also support from ONGC, Gift City, Civil Defense. A lot of agencies involved.
Who else responded? The source lists quite a few.
It does. CISF, the Central Industrial Security Force, often at airports they were among the first responders. The Border Security Force, BSF, sent 2 teams.
The Army.
Yep, Indian Army deployed about 130 personnel, had a military hospital on standby. Then you had the CRPF, Central Reserve Police Force, 150 personnel. And the NDRF, the National Disaster Response Force, sent 3 teams, about 90 people.
Even the railway got involved.
Western Railway, yes. Their disaster management team, railway police, even a hospital team with doctors and ambulances. It highlights the sheer scale of this event happening in a major city.
And clearing the site. Obviously a massive job.
Huge. The Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation deployed 159 vehicles, earth movers, trucks, rollers, plus engineers, health teams, municipal hospitals were involved. A massive logistical operation.
What about the airport itself? Flights must have stopped.
They were suspended, yes, but the source says operations resumed later that day, though in a limited capacity.
Okay, let's turn to the human impact. The casualties. This is tough.
It is. The source quotes a senior police official. The total death toll is at least 274 people.
And that breaks down how?
241 from the flight passengers and crew, and at least 33 people killed on the ground.
And injuries on the ground, too.
Yes, at least 60 reported injured on the ground. The source specifically mentions at least 50 medical students, presumably in that hostel that was hit, were hospitalized.
The source also mentions a specific high-profile passenger who was killed.
Yes, Vijay Rupani, who was the former chief minister of Gujarat. He was confirmed to be among the passengers who died.
Okay, now this is the part that, reading the source, just seems extraordinary. The sole survivor from the aircraft.
It really is. Amidst all that devastation, the source confirms one survivor from the flight itself.
And we have some details about this person.
We do, identified as a 40-year-old British national. Crucially, the source notes his seat, 11A, right next to an emergency exit.
In his account of how he escaped. It's incredible.
Absolutely. He apparently told rescuers or authorities that he unbuckled his seatbelt after the crash. The section he was in fell to the ground floor level.
Fell to the ground floor?
Yes, and then the aircraft door near him broke open, creating an escape route. He just managed to get out.
What was his condition?
Doctors reported he was disoriented, obviously multiple injuries, burns on his left hand, but thankfully not in life-threatening danger.
There's another tragic detail about him too, isn't there?
Yes, the source adds that one of his brothers was also on the flight. He did not survive. Just heartbreaking.
Unbelievable story. Okay, so the focus shifts now to finding out why this happened, the investigation.
Right. India's Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau, the AIIB, is taking the lead. That's standard procedure.
And international involvement, given the plane, the passengers.
Definitely. The UK's AAIB sent investigators.
Hmm.
The US NTSB, the National Transportation Safety Board, dispatched a GO team to assist.
The NTSB being the main U.S. agency.
Exactly. And the FAA, the U.S. aviation regulator, was also ready to send a team. So a lot of international cooperation right from the start.
What about the key evidence? The black boxes.
Recovery happened relatively quickly, according to the source. The first one, like the cockpit voice recorder, was found after about 28 hours of searching on June 13th.
The day after the crash.
Yes. And on that same day, June 13th, the Gujarat Anti-Terrorism Squad recovered something else interesting. A digital video recorder, a DVR.
Some cameras on the plane.
Apparently capturing external and cabin views. The source is careful to say this DVR is separate from the official certified flight recorders, but still potentially very valuable evidence.
And the second black box, the flight data recorder.
That was located just a few hours after the first one, also on June 13th. So they have both main recorders now.
Are there other investigations happening too?
Yes. The source mentions parallel inquiries opened by India's DGCA, the aviation regulator, and by Air India itself.
And the DGCA took immediate action regarding other planes.
They did. Ordered extra pre-departure technical checks for Air India's entire fleet of Boeing 787s. Those checks started on June 15th, just 2 days after the recorders were found.
Makes sense. Okay, finally, let's cover the official reactions and corporate responses detailed in the source. Government first.
Immediate responses from the top in India. Prime Minister Modi expressed condolences, visited the crash site, and the hospital where survivors were being treated.
Others too.
Yes, Home Minister Amit Shah, Gujarat's Chief Minister Bhupendra Patel, who ordered operations on a war footing, and opposition leader Rahul Gandhi all issued statements of condolence.
International reactions.
Noted from the UK, understandably given the number of British victims and the survivor. Messages from Prime Minister Keir Starmer and from King Charles and Queen Camilla. The UK Foreign Office also set up crisis teams.
How did Air India respond publicly?
Their chairman, Natarajan Chandrasekharan, called it a tragic accident, emphasized supporting the victims and helping the investigation.
And the CEO.
Campbell Wilson described it as a difficult day, mentioned mobilizing caregiver teams. The source even notes he diverted a flight he was on to personally assist with the response efforts in Mehdabad.
What about compensation? Anything mentioned?
Yes, Tata Group, which owns Air India now, announced compensation of $10 million per family for each passenger fatality. That's about US $120,000 according to the source's conversion. They also pledged to cover medical costs for injured passengers.
Is there a standard liability amount mentioned?
The source references the Montreal Convention, which governs international flights. It estimates the liability could be around 1.5 crore, or roughly US $180,000 per fatality kin under that convention.
And the manufacturers, Boeing and GE.
Boeing CEO Kelly Ortberg canceled an appearance at the Paris Air Show, offered condolences, and sent technical experts to Ahmedabad. Boeing issued a statement saying they were assessing the information.
That must have hit their stock.
The source notes their stock futures sank almost 9% in the immediate aftermath. GE Aerospace, the engine maker, also offered condolences and is sending a team to assist and analyze data.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up based purely on this source material. What picture emerges?
It's a picture of an extremely rapid catastrophic event. An aircraft crashing literally seconds after takeoff from a very low altitude into a dense urban environment. Massive tragedy.
But with this one thread of almost miraculous survival woven into it.
Exactly. That detail about the single survivor and the specific circumstances describe the seat location, the way the fuselage section fell, the door breaking open. It's a focal point amidst the devastation.
And the investigation is really just beginning.
Absolutely. Yeah. The source makes it clear that crucial flight recorders and that DVR have only just been recovered. Analyzing that data is the critical next step.
That data from the AAIB and their international partners will be key to understanding what could possibly cause such a rapid loss of control right after liftoff. So here's something to think about based only on what we've discussed from this source. This aircraft type, the 787, had a spotless fatal accident record before this. It crashes within seconds, barely airborne, in clear weather into a city. What does that combination of facts suggest to you about the complex and sometimes just unpredictable nature of aviation safety, even with our most modern aircraft? It really makes you wonder what happened in those 30 critical seconds.